This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Chris Fink from Finn. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, it's not going to be Thanksgiving when this is posted, but it's approaching, so it's nice. Thank you for joining me during this very busy holiday season, especially before Black Friday. I know agencies are a little overloaded at this time.
It's a little busy right about now, yeah, yeah. But they're all the right problems to have. It's all great.
Exactly. If you're not busy, then maybe you wouldn't be as excited. So like, so it's a good season. I'm happy that you took some time to be able to do this with me during the time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. And could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, like an introduction to your work, kind of your journey to this point in your career, and anything that you think is relevant that you should include?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, my journey into the marketing space, I don't know how most people arrive in this. Some people arrive here very intentionally. I wound up
Mhm.
here through a weird, haphazard set of circumstance. So I had a career in the retail automotive business. I worked in dealerships and a lot of different positions there, and that was for well over 20 years. And then I exited that, and in my past, my partner and I, she wanted to open a med spa, and she was medical. I had a lot of more, kind of the business side of things, and I could facilitate and just kind of support. So we opened a med spa.
Mhm.
And in that, we had a small site built, but it wasn't really doing anything. So I was like, well, I guess I'll learn how to build a website. So I taught myself how to build a website. And then I was like, well, I guess I better figure out how to make it run well. So I started learning how to make it run well. And then it was like, okay, well, nobody's showing up. I guess I need to figure out how to get it found. So that's
Mhm.
when I started getting into SEO. And I really enjoyed the SEO elements. It was like probably my favorite part about being involved in it, and you know, connecting those dots to social channels and all the other elements involved in a marketing strategy. So I wound up kind of there just naturally, just having to do it myself as a entrepreneur, without a big budget and, just figuring it out. Now I wound up spending so much time on digital marketing that I was getting like some of the pharmaceutical companies and like bigger organizations having conversations with me about like, hey, how looks like you're doing all right at this. How's that working out? I don't know. I just keep trying things until they work. Uh, so as many things do, that relationship ended and I wound up exiting the med spa environment. But I really had a passion for the digital marketing. I had really loved it that much. So as I was leaving, I was recruited by a digital marketing agency saying, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? I was like, yeah, it really is. So I joined Fanet, and that agency was Fanet. Wound up talking to the CEO, the founders, and really felt like their mission was in alignment with my core values. Like I really like working with businesses and entrepreneurs. We're entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs, and
Mhm.
that we love being that. Like we love seeing those success stories and being a part of that tale. So that's kind of how I arrived here in the digital marketing space. And then it's, just been working through that and getting familiar with the differences between being a generalist and a niche agency and, working through all those things and upskilling the rest of my areas. But yeah, it was a kind of a fun journey and process to get here, but I'm really excited where it took me.
I really like to hear that because I surprisingly more often than not, talking to marketers, I feel like most people do have non-linear paths to this point. I think marketing is one of those fields where people get here almost by accident, but they really enjoy it.
Yeah.
um, and I like that because I think that having different perspectives and being involved in different fields and different companies and different businesses and different job positions, I think marketing is one of those things where you can get influence from almost anything.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see all the different perspectives that people have on how to do things because of the experience that they had before getting to a marketing position.
Yeah, and it's great learning and meeting so many people in the marketing industry and then all the different tactics. Like there's no one way. There's I mean, if there was, we'd all be doing it. But there isn't one way. So having that, and meeting all these people that have just a little bit of insight, they've run some test that nobody thought of. And we're like, and then they were surprised when it worked. And great, let's try that. So yeah, I love the nonlinear and just right. It's like wandering into the wrong party, but then you realize that you really like those people. You want to hang out in this one as opposed to go back. That's kind of what
No,
happened. I was just kind of wandered in this party and I was like, I like it. I kind of want to stay.
that is exactly what marketing is, and that's exactly what it feels like. And it's nice that you got that entrepreneurial, I'm so hard. That's such a difficult word for me to say. Experience, because I think that that helps you kind of maintain that mindset of clients that you're dealing with. Whereas a lot of people, well, you can be from the marketing headspace your entire life and be super involved in marketing and have a lot of experience in that. But a lot of people will go to you for advice, or, via campaign or some sort, whatever it may be. And you give them advice and they're like, well, I don't really want to do that. But they're like, oh, I want to do this thing. And you have the experience to say, hey, I've actually tried this thing in real
Yeah.
life or seen it happen and not work out. Maybe we shouldn't do that idea for you because I've seen it firsthand and not just because of some statistics or something that may seem arbitrary to this company, even though statistics are very not arbitrary.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we do believe in a, math over mystery or, facts not feelings, like type of approach. And we'll disclose things, but sometimes clients get excited and they hear this theory and they're like, "Oh, this sounds like such a great idea. Let's try it."
Mhm,
Now fortunately, in most cases, like a lot of our clients, our retention is pretty high. Like we have clients that have been with us a very, very long time. And
mhm,
so when we have a conversation about those things, we're like, I have some experience on this. Can I share that with you? They're usually going to ask for feedback. And it's usually more often than not, they'll factor that in their decision making process. But sometimes, they just have to see it succeed or fail. And so, if they know that and we share those things with them, I think one of the things that sets us apart a little bit is that entrepreneurial mindset and experience and having been through that. I'm pretty sure that that factored in the partners' minds when even when they were interviewing me. And I know it factors like when we interview people now is do they have that perspective? Because look, one of our mantras is we're entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. If you can't think that way, and you can't care like an owner does about that business and the growth of it, and that's another one of our catchphrases. We care like owners. We care
mhm.
like we're invested. And in some ways, in a practical sense, we are. Because I mean, if we don't do a good job, we get fired and then we don't have work. So I mean, in that
Mhm.
sense, like your success is very much a motivating factor for us. But you can't care like an owner unless you have some type of exposure to that mindset and the pressures that go with that. And so acknowledging those things and factoring those into the conversations, I find to be really helpful. And it really builds that relationship and allows us to create a partnership with our clients that, you know, we we give them all the access and we have transparency. We show them like, here's all of our executables and all your deliverables, and here's what happened when and how and by whom and all that. But they have to like I'll tell them in their onboarding, like, you have to be prepared to be held accountable by me. Like
Mhm.
when we talk about something, we're like, okay, I'm gonna send you something for approval. that means you have to approve it in a timely fashion, not wait and
Mhm.
get back to me and, "Oh gosh, yeah, it's been 3 weeks, I'm sorry." And, "But why were you guys late?" "Well, because the team that includes you did not, come together." So, when you have a client that you can have an accountability both ways and, hold each other and push each other and iron sharpens iron, and that's that's really important to us too. That's like one of our key things that we go to is iron sharpens iron, and it's a good thing. And conf- progress can't happen without conflict. So growth doesn't happen without conflict. So we just want a little bit of comfortable tension so that we can do those things. That was
Yeah,
a
no, I
really
think
long response, wasn't it?
no, no. Trust me, I've gotten longer. This podcast is it really depends on the person. Everyone's got a different personality, so never worry about that. um, but no, I think that makes complete sense, and I do like the idea of being able to have that dynamic with the client because one, I think that like accountability is super important for that kind of relationship on both ends, but it's also important. It comes down to almost respect. Like you're coming to me for a service and you're expecting me to yield results. And if you're not working with me in an efficient manner that can allow me to do that, then not only do you feel somewhat inadequate for not being able to do your job, but on top of it, in a month from now, when they were like unresponsive several times, it's like you're not going to be able to yield those results. And then they're going to be unhappy as well and wonder why. And it's important to have a relationship where you can be honest at all
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
hmm And that's something that's difficult sometimes for people.
It can be. And, different personalities yield different conversations. So just knowing how to navigate those or learning how to navigate those, over time. And I I just think with clients, sometimes it's like any other field. There are self-educated experts, right? People will go on Google or they'll see in their peer group, maybe, at a conference, like, oh, these guys were doing this and they had great results. So they'll bring that to us and say, can we do this? Or sometimes they'll say, why aren't we doing this? And we'll say, because we presented it and you didn't like the budget impact.
Yeah.
So we
Mhm.
can we can certainly change that. Um, but at the end of the day, we have to train and upskill ourselves and make sure that we are experts in what we do and be prepared to deliver that. And, I've read an article on heart surgery. It doesn't mean you want me with a scalpel anywhere near your chest.
Mhm.
Right. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I have to remind clients of that. Like I get it. Like I read a lot of things. Doesn't mean that I'm knowledgeable in them or that I would try to do it. So, let's but there is a time for and lately things are so exciting. Like there's been so many changes in the last couple of years with technology and platforms and abilities and LLMs and AI and all that clients first were like, "Oh yeah, let's just turn off all content. We'll just have Chat GPT spit it all out."
No, no.
There's always going to be a couple, right, that are going to try it and they're going to think like, "Oh, I can save a bunch of money." And then they spit out a bunch of content that's all wrong and or mostly wrong, or wrong in the one way, the worst possible way, and that doesn't rank. So then, you know, s and some of it will, some of it won't, but you just need a mind and an expert involved in the conversation to really nurture that process along and get those results that they're looking for.
How do you feel about AI? Do you use it regularly? Do you like certain aspects of it?
I like certain aspects of it. I don't use it as regularly as some of the others on the team. I should use it more than I do. And I know that. I have just like anybody else, I have routines and habits, and if I know how to get the answer to something quickly using the tools that I have, then I'll just go get it instead of learn a new tool.
Yeah,
But
I
I will
understand.
use it. Yeah, I will use it for research. I will use it to test and iterate, and sometimes if I get like, if I'm trying to, craft a certain piece of content, something like that, and I'm just stuck, then I'll ask for ideas, and if nothing else, it'll just get me thinking and, put, like,
Mhm.
maybe some words in my field of view that I hadn't considered, and so, like, "Oh, no, not that, but almost that," and so it does serve as a little bit of an inspiration for me in some cases. I'll use it, again, more for research. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like en masse just deploying it to like rewrite all meta tags, on a site. Like that's a little bit too much for me. And some of the
I very
testing
much
I've done with some of
understand.
the platforms hasn't been consistent enough. Although I have no doubt it's going to get there.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I completely understand. I also really understand the routine aspect of it because I was very hesitant of using it for a very long time, not really because of the worry of, "Oh, it's gonna take people's jobs," the whole worry about that. My real worry about it was not using my brain enough. Like, what if I get too reliant on this, and then it doesn't work one day, and now I'm so reliant on it that I can't do normal things, which probably would never happen. I think I think enough that that wouldn't happen. But
I don't know. I'm at an age where we didn't always, I didn't always have smartphones in my life where I just had a favorite and a name and tapped a picture and I got their
Mhm.
phone number. I had to remember phone numbers with the old dials and the push buttons.
Yes. Mhm.
And so at that time, I could remember all my phone number, work phone numbers, friends of friends'
Mhm.
phone numbers. Now, I barely know mine. I don't know my mom's. I don't know hardly anybody else's phone number. Like if you ask me for it, I don't know them anymore. So I do think there is some legitimacy to the point you're making that when you stop processing information in a certain way and you stop being forced to retrieve it in a certain way, then you gradually lose the ability to do that effectively. And it's just like math. If you never do any mental computation and it's always a calculator, then you kind of lose track. And all of a sudden, 7 by 7 is a lot harder than it used to be when you were 9. Yeah.
No, I completely understand. That is one of my biggest fears is my brain getting rusty for certain things. That's why I constantly try to do simple things in my head. Like
Sure.
even I noticed recently that spelling words that are not that complicated. I was always very good at spelling. Like that was
Yeah.
like I had an affinity for it as a kid. But when phones correct your spelling all the time, I realized there's simple words where I'm like, oh my god, how do I remember how do you spell it again? And it's very I'm very distraught about
Yeah.
it.
I
But so
understand.
that was what I was worried about ChatGPT, but I try not to rely on it too much. I use it as a tool for the tedious things that just
Sure.
aren't worth my time or just take too long, but I try to think as much as possible
Yeah.
outside of using it. I think that I also think that there is certainly a problem with an over reliance on it. I don't think that's beneficial for anyone at this point. I don't think it's there um to use it as a replacement for a person or a job. I think that you always have to kind of check its work, so to speak, because it's not at the efficiency in which people maybe thought it would be at this point or think that it is. But at the same time, I just don't think it's there. And I think that a lot of businesses will feel that they can use it in place of things and certain processes, and a lot of times it just doesn't work in their favor.
Yeah, we've seen that. There's a lot of AI like chat bots, right? And
Mhm.
those things have been evolving. They started with having a preset menu that had preset responses so that you could just select a question, then get that canned response. And now it's getting more variables in there where you can just type in a question. It can be phrased one of 100 different ways and it will generate a response. And I don't think that it's consistent. I don't think that
Mhm.
it's 100%. I do feel confident that it will get closer and closer to that mark. But, it's been on our radar as something, as a household thing for 2 years.
Mhm.
I mean, that's pretty fast to get to the point, and the changes we've seen in the last 2 years have been pretty impactful. So I do think that there will be, cascading ramifications, and there will be more impact on it as it continues to roll out and get better. But currently, if there's going to be ideation involved, if there's the one thing that it cannot do is have an original thought.
Mhm. Yes.
It, it's all scraped information. So any response it gives you, it's scraped from somewhere.
Mhm.
And hopefully it's scraped from somewhere accurate and reliable and authoritative on the topic.
Mhm.
hopefully, but not always. And if it doesn't find information out there that it can use to generate a response, it'll punt. And, then we don't know. But, so that makes me a little bit nervous. So if it's a creative thing, if there it needs to be inventive, if you need to have some true originality, which Google likes original content, right? So you can't get that out of any LLM. You still need people involved. And if nothing else, you need to go back and use it for tone, audience, fact check. Like you still need to have human eyes involved at this point in the game. It might
Mhm.
not be this way for long based on the rate of travel, but right now that's still where it stands.
Yeah, even with the chat bots, I think at this point, kind of what you touched on a little bit is that I don't think it's there at this point, where it frustrates me when a website has chatbots and not a real person talking to me. I think I get more aggravated than anything else, especially automated messages
Yeah.
for services that are supposed to help you. My health insurance company.
Yeah.
Like, I I just it just infuriates me. I think that a theory that I have about AI is in the future, maybe at some point it will get so advanced that yes, it'll be better at these things, but at the same time, I think the more advanced it gets, the more people might crave an actual human,
Yeah.
because they're so used to these services. And I think that I don't know. I think they always crave human connection, and it's kind of like a revolution of sorts where, COVID happens, some event like that happens where people don't see each other as much. And then there's like this whole afterwards when everything is a lot better and we're able to go outside again. There's this whole revolution of small businesses and all of these events that are in person so that people can
Right.
connect to each other. And I hope that that happens with AI. That's my hope.
That's a lofty ambition, but I mean, it'd be nice if you can get there. Yeah, it's funny, like, we're on the kind of the trail end now, like, after COVID, like you said, like, everybody went out everywhere, concerts,
Mhm.
restaurants, everybody was just booming. Every industry out there was just rocking and rolling because everybody wanted to get out there. And now we're kind of like, on the tail end and downswing of that, and things have dropped a little bit. But, I find myself in the same boat. Like, I get a automated voice on a voice tree, and I don't even wanna talk, and I think that there's,
Mhm.
um I will pay more to talk to a person instead of deal with 9 minutes of phone tree, and
Yes.
if you can give that to me personally, then I'm probably going that direction, but that's just my personality. Not everybody feels that way. A lot of people would rather talk to one of those, um I know a lot of people that they don't even like calling and having to make an appointment for their oil change. If there's not an app, they don't wanna go.
Yes. I can understand both sides of the coin. I'm definitely very anxious, and talking to someone on the phone sounds daunting, but if I have a problem,
Yeah.
I do not want to talk to a robot. A problem is a person can understand a problem and empathize with you. A robot cannot
Yeah.
empathize with you.
Yeah.
And that is frustrating. I want someone to empathize with my problems. I
Absolutely. Yeah.
think that's the worst part.
Yeah.
If I need general information about things, of course a robot can replace that. It's
Sure.
just um that's just, a set of general questions, of course, but
Yeah.
a
Sometimes
problem.
painful getting there.
Yeah, to get to a person, I just, speak to a representative yelling
Yeah.
into the phone.
Rep representative.
Yeah, please. And the robots don't understand please too. They don't care that you're saying please. They don't care that you're being polite. Like
Yeah.
speaking to a customer service person, they're so happy that I'm being polite to them, and I can feel it in their tone.
Right.
They probably get screamed at all day.
They probably do, and you're right. When I talk and I'm just like, "Hi, I really need help. Please help me." It's, "Oh, okay." You know, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. It's
Mhm.
always been true.
Very true. The robot doesn't care.
Right. Yep. That is
So getting out of the big conversation about AI, want to ask you some more marketing questions. So I'll, I'll
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
change gears here.
Okay.
Okay, so Something I really like to ask is okay, so as we discussed, marketing is usually nonlinear.
Yeah.
Um, what do you believe outside of the marketing space, something that you found unique that has helped you a lot in your marketing position? If I phrased that poorly, I can rephrase. I realize that was a little rambling.
Um, yeah, so something outside of marketing training that helped me be good at marketing for
Yeah.
clients. Is
Yeah.
that kind of yeah,
Perfect.
okay. Yeah. Um, I was at a conference not long ago, and it was a digital marketing conference, but there was a saying there that resonated with me, and I remembered that I had heard it when I was younger, which is like, sell the whole, not the drill, and deliver that indirectly. So, and what they meant was, you know, if if somebody walked into Home Depot, right, and they're in the hallway looking at drills, and this is not my credo. I take no credit for this, right? I'm just completely repurposing this, but um, if somebody's looking for drills and a guy comes up and starts talking to them about, oh, it has this many RPMs, this much horsepower, and it can puncture this depth and blah, 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 this kind of torque, right? And honestly, if it's me looking for the drill, I don't care. Will it make
I
the
don't even know what
full
that
of the
means.
thing? Will it make a full of the thing that I need a hole made in? Will it get
Mhm.
me results? And so sometimes I tend to be, and I think a lot of SEOs, especially, but digital marketing people, we tend to talk about the how and all of the geek speak, all of the metrics and the KPIs, and where, the conversions and click through rates and impression share and, all those things. And they're all relevant things to talk about. Like they are all important. There's a place for them in the conversation, but I have had a history of dwelling on them maybe a little bit more than I needed to with clients. And what I needed to do was get my head back over to the other side of that's my job to know that stuff, to know those terms, to know I need to know the medications to prescribe for the doctor
Mhm.
now, right? But they don't care. They just want to know that are they going to walk again? Are they going to talk again? Are they going to be healthy? Are they going to be happy? Are they going to see results? So every once in a while, I just need to stop thinking like a marketer and just think like a business owner, which is why we're, care like an owner and entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. Like that is the approach that I try to remind myself of pretty much daily. I have a little thing written over here that, just get out of the lingo, get out of the tech and the hows, get to the why, and then the result. Connect those two dots, everything in the middle. Ask them if they want to know. Some of them are more technical. Some of them want to be more involved. Most don't. And so, just kind of looking at those 2 dots at the end and just saying, "Okay, let's just connect these in more of a linear fashion," and, just think about what is it that they want, what is it that they need, give them the guidance to get there, report on it, but kinda just simplify some of it a little bit and make it easier for them to process and not be a part-time job for them to understand what I'm talking about.
I 100% agree with that. And I actually have had conversations previously with agency owners or professionals in a part of agencies that a common problem in the marketing space and discussing marketing among marketers is that there are all these different terms for the same things that people kind of almost gatekeep them a little bit, like, because they don't want you to understand what they're saying because everyone has a different strategy and no one wants you to steal their strategy and whatever it may be. And I don't like that. And I think a lot of marketers don't like it, but it's kind of just the lay of the land. I think it's getting better. Like marketers are communicating with each other. I think LinkedIn has helped a crazy amount with that because people are sharing their strategies um and all these different things. But I think that is a common problem not only between marketers and their clients who are hiring you to explain things to them simply and do them for them on top of it. Some people don't want anything explained to them at all. They just want results, and
Right.
that's fine too.
Yep.
But
Did I get more leads? Did I make more money?
mhm,
That you show that, a lot of them, they're like, "Cool,
yeah,
bye."
thank you.
Yep. Great.
But a lot of people want to know why and how. And if you explain that to them in the most complex marketing terms that they don't understand, they're going to kind of hate you. they're,
Yeah.
they're not going to be very happy. They're not going to be able to explain it to, and it's probably not the CEO you're talking to, depending on the company, I guess. But if you're just talking to the market, or I guess it wouldn't be the marketing manager because they would understand the marketing terms, but that also depends because sometimes they have different terms. But
Well,
whoever you're talking to might have to explain it to someone else. And if they can't do that, that sucks.
yeah. Sometimes you can deal with a marketing manager who isn't, they understand marketing as a concept. They might have their specialty might be traditional or outdoor
Mhm.
marketing or, print marketing. They might come from a totally different background and still
Mhm.
understand the concepts and they understand what a conversion is. But, when we start throwing out all the acronyms and oh, we need this CTA for, CPCs and da da da, then nobody likes to feel like they're the uneducated or illiterate one in the room. In the
Mhm.
nobody likes to feel that way. So, if you have conversations, a lot of times you just have to be intentional with your conversations and help them learn, but over a period of time. Like, don't drown them in a whole bunch of letters the first time you meet. Maybe give it a little bit of time, share a few things, and then, move forward and let them ask questions and they'll come back to the conversation better prepared for it.
I can completely understand that client perspective too of not understanding these terms and all that. I mean, not having a traditional marketing background, um, and learning as I go. And I think a lot of marketers are doing that too. I think that's why it's almost gatekeepy to talk in terms sometimes, but I understand that if you can explain it in that way, that's your way of explaining it. But I think that I understand the fear of when I started this podcast, I didn't know a lot of terms and I was like, "Oh my god, people are going to use these terms and I'm not going to understand these terms and I'm not going to be able to talk to them about the things that they're explaining to me." And that was always a big worry, and I can understand clients being worried about the same thing. And I think that is almost kind of comes down to a lack of transparency because you can be transparent with the data, but if you're not clear about what it means to someone who wouldn't be able to understand it without that,
Right.
then it's not doing anything for them, really.
Yeah, I think about the connection between communications and marketing, right? And there's a deep connection between them, right? You can't really market unless you're effectively communicating.
Mhm.
But if you think about communications, what it really means, just boiled down simplicity, it means that the message I send is received by you and understood the way I intended you to understand it, right? So that right there, like people talk, and I can talk all these numbers if they don't understand, or if they think they understand, but they think it means something different than what I think they mean, then there's a misalignment that happens and that just cascades and it spirals. And then all of a sudden you're wondering, like, why is my churn so high? I don't know. Like, why are people leaving? But it's just because you're not really communicating with them in a way and they're not understanding the message. So I'm just taking a little bit of time and making sure that you're delivering the information at the cadence they want in a way that they can consume, and helping educate them along the way without overloading it, and that they're receiving the message in the way that you're intending to send it. And I think that's just client relations. It just comes down to client relations. But that's what helps retention. And if an agency is not looking at the retention and they're not thinking about that, then it's a matter of time before they have a really hard morning
Mhm.
where things go terribly, terribly wrong. So, having those CSAT processes or the customer satisfaction, client satisfaction processes in place to evaluate those things is so important. And if you're not getting feedback from your clients on how these accounts are being managed, how your account managers or strategists, are interacting with them and how they feel in these communications, that is a direct tie to your retention rates.
Mhm.
And um, one of the biggest things that's going to lead to churn or lack of retention is, um, a perceived lack of care or perceived indifference, right, by the client if they think you don't care. And so if they get on and I have this conversation, I'm just like, well, this month we had, 2,000 impressions, and you got these things and CTCs and TPCs and CTAs and your ROASs and your ROIs are these. And okay, all right, nope, call me next month and we'll talk about it then. It's a matter of time. Is I mean, it's probably as if you're on a contract basis, it's probably as soon as that contract ends, they're gonna be or right before, they're gonna be thinking about that. So, I think the client management services and the client services department, it takes a one machine to win them and a whole different mindset to keep them. And if you can master those two things, then you're set up for success.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that it it's explaining things clearly is important, but personality is also kind of important. You need to be able to have, you need to be able to explain things in a way that not only make people understand them, but also make them happy to hear them.
Yeah. And just that you care enough that
Mhm.
they're not just numbers to you. Like you're like, this looks great. I'm excited.
Yes, exactly.
This
Mhm,
doesn't look as awesome. I'm really concerned. I've already started taking action. I don't need you to tell
mhm,
me action. I've already started because I'm like, I don't like that. Let me do something
mhm,
about it. This, on the other hand, is doing exactly what I wanted to do. Satisfying. And,
mhm.
you share those things with the clients and, now you're going places.
Yeah, exactly, and they're happy that you're happy that their business is doing well. Like,
Yeah.
or they're happy that you're concerned, or maybe they're not happy, but they're satisfied that you're concerned that it's not going the way that you wanted and that you're willing to fix it and work hard to do so.
Right. Right. There has to be those. Like you can't just it's never going to be all good news. Like,
Mhm.
there's always gonna be an area that's
It's
not
marketing.
yeah, there's always going to be something that can be better, always.
Mhm.
So, it's not always gonna be good news, but when you have that trust to say it's kinda like that, what is it? The 7 dysfunctions, right? So, a lack of trust, I have to be able to say, "This is not going well.
Mhm.
No, we're trying this play, it's not going the way that we predicted, it's not going well. So, let's pivot, reposition, and, try a different strategy." We can talk about whether to scale it back, to abandon it. And then I have to trust that the client's going to hear that feedback from me and not go, "What do you mean it's not going the way you intended? You're fired." Like there has to be that, uh, and there's always going to be one
Yeah,
that
of
does
course.
that,
Yeah.
and those are the ones that like maybe it's a good time for us to fire that client, if they're not the best client. So there's did you ever hear of the 20-60-20 rule in
No.
business?
Please explain.
Yeah, this one is, it's sort of something that I have to think about probably a couple times a year with some clients when I'm evaluating client success.
Mhm.
So 20% of your clients that an agency gets are going to be perfect. They're going to be your ideal clients. They're going to pay, like you're going to have a good paying contract, right? That makes money for the agency. They're going to be kinda low touch in the sense that they're just, like, a pleasant conversation to have, like, your account manager strat looks forward to that call with them, they're just cool people to work with, they ask good questions, they have the right intention, they're easy to work with, they're just awesome, like, they're our favorite clients, right? 20% of them are favorite clients.
Mhm.
Then you have 60% of them that are just kinda right in the belt, right? They're standard client, standard contracts, standard relationships, a little bit of grief, a little bit of wins, normal, right? Just
Mhm.
average. And then you have that last 20%, and they are the nightmare clients. They're the ones that give you 97 revisions. They work the contract and want every discount possible to where you're not even sure you're making money on them. You
Mhm.
spend so much time doing extra work. Your account manager gets overwhelmed dealing with them and doing all these extra tasks, trying to keep them happy and trying to keep them from churning, when in reality, we should probably let them go like right now as clients,
Mhm.
right? So that 20%, like it's tough to say because you don't want to decline revenue. You don't want to say like, oh no, we don't want that client. And then, have the fear of a bad reputation or that you weren't able to deliver or meet their expectations. But sometimes there are clients that you will never meet their expectations because their expectations will change every time you get close.
Hmm.
And they're going to keep working, throwing more stuff at you. And they're just not a profitable client to have. Like there are some industries out there and clients out there that we just look at it as like, it takes so much time and energy and extra resources to get even close. And then they're still not happy. Like, let's just, let's just not. Let's just agree that we're not the best fit. And at that point in time, there have been times where I've let clients out of contracts and where I've fired them as clients. Just it's not working out. You're not happy with anything we do, and you ask for way beyond scope. And we do it, and you're still not happy. And we're getting
Hmm.
results, but you're still not happy. And we get positive wins, but you're still not happy. At this point in time, let's just allow each other to move forward in different directions with the very best wishes. And sometimes that's what's necessary. So that last 20%, being mindful of that, um, that does play a role in my year.
No, it's important to be able to know when you have to stop too. I think that a lot of people, of course, there's a certain point, especially when you're in a startup or you have a startup where you kind of can't, the luxury of doing that or saying no. You kind of have to deal. But at the same time, it's like if you're not having a fruitful relationship and no one's happy on either end of the scenario, and you've tried over and over again, it's good to know when you're like, this is done.
If you have a client like that, I know what you mean. Like in the startup, you're so hungry, you need revenue badly to scale. You need to put dollars in the account. I get it. Um, and I've done it, right? Sometimes I look back at that time and I was like, yeah, but I spent 30 hours working on this one thing for this one client. What could I have
Yeah.
done to either get 3 different new clients or to improve 10 other clients' results in
Mhm.
that time? And, so it does take a little genuine introspection and reflection, like, where am I serving the agency best? By keeping this one client and keeping 1,500 of MRR that for a client that's just consuming more than a 5,000 MRR client would in terms of resources. I gotta let go.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something that I think a lot of people do deal with too much earlier on in their career and they kind of look back and regret it. So
Yeah.
it's definitely nice to know, that standard of where this is enough, enough is enough. And I think that just takes time for people to recognize and be okay with because yeah, of course, a lot of people have to be hungry and and they got to eat. So
They
I
gotta
think
eat.
that
They gotta eat. But I'll tell you this, there is nothing like if you manage a team and you have a team of strategists or account managers and they come to you and they're bringing it to you, right? As a leader and they're saying, "Hey, I'm really struggling with this client, like they're never happy, everything's going wrong, like they're just not happy." As they should, right? That's an escalation point. And so in your account health, thinking about that, looking at all your accounts, your strat should feel comfortable, but there is nothing like when you get on a call when you're like, "Yeah, let me jump on the call with you, next call. Let me get on there." And you get on there and you either check that client nicely, professionally, right? But you're like, "Hey,
of course.
I see that my strat here or my account manager is doing all these things that are outside of scope. So for those things to continue, we need to either address that scope and get it corrected in your service agreement or understand that these are outside of scope and we need to get back into the normal cadence of things."
Mhm.
And so doing that for them, right, that takes them out. Now they're not the bad guy. They can go back to being the hero of the relationship and try to save
Mhm.
the relationship. And if after that, that doesn't work and I jump on the next call and I was like, "Hey, you know what? Looking at this, it doesn't look like we're the best fit. And I'm going to go ahead and release you from your agreement and allow you to move forward in a different direction that you might feel will be better suited." And I relieve that account manager of that stressor. I tell you what,
That's probably
those,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, they they get off and they just breathe such a huge sigh of relief, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think that I would be part of an organization that would value my strats and accounts managers over a single client." And, taking that and taking care of my people, my team, and valuing them in that way, you do that once, you've got somebody on there that, will go to the mat for you and will go the distance with those clients because they know we support them and we value them as people, not just a delivery instrument to keep MRR flowing.
I think that is a fantastic note to end on. So we are over time. But
Are we?
I do I do actually think that that is a really good note to end on because I completely agree with you. And I think that more people should think like that when involved with their team because especially if you have good workers and they're delivering quality results, then you don't want them to feel like they're being taken advantage of. And of course, it's up to you to determine if it's your, stamp of approval of whether you're keeping a client or not, you have to keep them in
Right.
mind.
Yeah. And that's something like, nobody should churn without me being involved.
Mhm.
Like, without me knowing, nobody should be released without me being involved in that conversation and give that okay. But once I do, and I'll be honest, I wasn't the first one in this relationship at Fanet. Like my CEO, I was losing a client, they were churning, and he called me up and he goes, "I'm far more concerned about you than this one client." And that is
That's
cascaded
awesome.
through, to my leadership style, and everybody in the team knows that now. And yeah, it's great to be part of an organization that actually feels that way and then walks that walk instead of just talking, "Oh, our culture is so important," but then they don't back it up. Like that's
Yeah.
frustrating,
I completely understand.
Yeah, that we live it is like that's really, really satisfying and fulfilling for me.
Of
So,
course. Yeah, no, I'm happy that you say that because I hope that people listen to this and understand and feel inspired to also treat their team in the same way that you feel they
yeah,
should be cared about.
I hope so. And I know I kinda went on in some parts of the conversation, and sorry for taking us over, but I was
Don't no,
really
no, 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 no,
Yep.
no. Don't worry. I think it was a really good conversation. I never mind things going over as long as it's not too much. I think you did a fantastic job today, and I'm really happy that you came on with me today. I think you were incredibly knowledgeable on all these topics, and I'm happy we had such a good conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for the invite. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time.
Of course. And thank you again for coming on and sharing all the knowledge that you have. And thank you to everyone watching and or listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories like this and also to gain more knowledge. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Bye, y'all.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.